Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Our VIP feature guest is the founder and creative director of Cassie LaMere Events. She has redefined the art of creating memorable experiences, merging meticulous design with the flair for the extraordinary along her 15-year career of bespoke events. In addition, she's very active in her community with notable accolades, including being a finalist and nominee in the Austin Under 40 Awards and a Center for Child Protection board member. She is celebrating lots of great things in her world. We're going to hear from her. She's got numerous philanthropic adventures and successes in industry events. So Silhouettes, let's welcome Cassie LaMere to the show. Hello, Cassie. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me, Amber.
We are so excited to connect with you. So, as you begin to share your Silhouette of Success journey with us, let's kick it off by having you share with the audience a little bit about your background.
Would love to. We joke in my family that I was born ready to entertain. So from a very early age, there are videos of me from the family archives of setting the table and creating menus and baking cakes and asking people to dress up for the holiday, dinner. And so it's become very clear to me upon reflection that this is something that's just intrinsically in me. I've always wanted to make every occasion the ultimate experience. I've wanted everything to be special and to be celebrated. So it's only natural that over the years, my path and my journey has led me to a career of creating those memories and experiences for others. I think it's really important to know that this is something that it's about so much more than just a beautiful event to me. It really is part of my nature and ingrained in me. And then I had some formidable experiences in my teenage years where I experienced a lot of loss in a brief amount of time. And I think for that moment, I was so impressionable, and to see, I actually had a friend who passed right before her 16th birthday, and I saw how her family didn't have the opportunity to celebrate that milestone that they were looking forward to. And also, really, it was really difficult to think about all of the future milestones that they were going to miss out on. And I think that made an impression on me and really made me motivated to this idea of, we don't want to miss those opportunities. We want to seize those opportunities while we have them, to gather and to celebrate and to make memories and mark occasions. So that really, I think, is where the passion started to come in to play for me about why it is so important to have these events and the role that we're playing in facilitating those opportunities for people for a life well lived. So those two things combined set me on this journey of seeking out opportunities to plan events, everything from my prom in high school to, various gatherings throughout college, and then starting in the fashion industry in my career, doing events for well-known luxury brands, and, kind of years and years later, eventually starting my own company, which is where I am today. So it's really a gift to be able to look back and start to connect those dots. I don't know if you've experienced that as well, but it's something over the last couple years that has really just kind of materialized for me.
It's very poetic that you just shared it and gave us that reflection with you, because two of the questions I like to ask, and specifically I was going to ask you today, I don't ask everybody, but it just felt like it was going to be with you, and that was the service to others. Where does that come
Mhm.
from? Which you shared with us, and beautifully. And the other question for you was going to be, did you do this when you were young with creative play? And so you just nailed both of those. And yes, connecting the dots sometimes takes a lot of self-reflection and paying
Mhm.
attention and having loved ones share with us maybe where our skills and talents are to really find our true passion. So that is so great that you're able to do that. And you're right, it is a gift. I believe that.
Thank you. Yeah, and it helps me understand why I'm so obsessive almost about the intention of what we're doing and how that's so important to really to have a clear understanding of the purpose of why we're doing an event and the intentionality behind the details that we select and the custom elements that we integrate and create for an experience, because it's all really leading back to this story and this greater purpose that I'm dedicated to accomplishing for the client and for the project. So when you start to understand the level, layers, and kind of passion that goes into this, you see why I'm quite meticulous and incessant about getting it exactly right, and feel so strongly about people not letting these moments go by. And I know people are busy and it seems daunting to plan an event or to, get everyone's schedules to align, but I certainly feel really strongly about the impact that these events have, whether it's a corporate event or a private event or philanthropic event. Obviously, there's so much purpose there and impact. But going back to that intentionality, and it really took a lot of work. There were some exercises that I did to start to allow myself to see that purpose unfold. Like you said, it takes time to, obviously for a long time I didn't want to address that grief and in that period of time in my life, but it's really beautiful now to be able to look at it as something that gave me passion and purpose. And I think that obviously, the more that you can find kind of the silver lining in those difficult moments and help that, it wasn't all in vain, right? That there's something that kind of lives on. And I think that's really special to my personal journey and what we're able to do for others, which means the world to me. And it's why we do what we do.
You just take it to a higher level by sharing.
Hmm.
I think it's very simplified when we hear, oh, go back to the why, but it is that basic. It really is. And the building blocks that when we are able to look back, when we get through it on the other side
Hmm.
and take the time, if we're courageous enough, or almost if we're forced to, for
Hmm.
ourselves to look back and say, okay, I went through this, and where is, just like you said, the silver lining, or how can I use this to help me, or help
Hmm.
others. Wow,
Hmm.
how fulfilling. Yay you.
Well,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, let's start on a super practical level, talking about going basic. The alarm clock goes off for you in
Hmm.
your world with your work or business day. What might, if there is, a typical day look like for you? Are you structured? Do you love routine with what you do, or are you more spontaneous? What's your vibe?
I laugh because the idea of a typical day in event planners world is that there is no typical day. I have the best intentions to get up. I try to work out in the morning first thing to give myself some mental clarity and just some time for myself. It's, to be honest, not my favorite activity, but I've tried to learn to love it and see the value in it. So I give myself some time for some physical activity. Then I go into, usually make myself a matcha and start the day. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a little bug from last week. I start the day with checking in, just seeing, where kind of the status of everything. And obviously there's a litany of things that need to be done on any given day. But those priorities often will shift based on if something has become a bit of a crisis, or, shift in priorities with managing so many project timelines at the same time, all at different phases of the planning process. As you can imagine, it can become a little bit complex to manage those different schedules and deliverables. And then also obviously we have quite a bit of meetings and on-site roles, so I'm in and out of the office all day long. So it's always exciting and never dull. And I'm always using different parts of my brain because I'm also, running my own business as well. So it does require different sides of me and asks a lot of me to be toggling between these different worlds, and using different, creative sides of my brain to be managing the operation side as well as being client facing and planning the events. So I look at my list, as I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. And I'm like, the amount of things that I do in a day, and the way that you're bouncing around. I'm not a person that time blocks. I admire people who are, but I just feel like in our role, it's constantly kind of being nimble to adapt to where the current need is, and as much as I can, I'm proactive. We work really far in advance in our events. It's important to me that we're pretty organized and live and die by these timelines that we have, and we don't procrastinate, because inevitably as you get closer to an event, there's always those last minute things that come up or that weren't anticipated or you just couldn't do ahead of time. So it's really important that the pieces that we can perfect and get solidified ahead of time are in place so that we're set up to have that flexibility going into the event. And because of that, we only take on a select number of clients and projects. We're pretty exclusive in that way, so that all of our services and our resources can be dedicated to that client leading up to their events. They know that they have the benefit of our full time and attention to be able to address those needs that will inevitably arise.
You've got the gift and the fabulous curse of being a creative and analytical.
Right. Yeah,
You just do.
exactly.
And I would say that, to me, and this is my opinion, that really having those timelines is a definite form of time blocking.
Hmm.
So, you know what I mean? So to me, I think they're, I don't know, tomato, tomato. So I think you got it.
Yeah.
But
Thank
yes,
you. I
there
appreciate
are,
you giving me that one.
but there are definitely those that live and die by that time blocking. I'm like, yeah, okay. So,
And I love that
yeah,
idea, but it doesn't,
yeah,
unfortunately, as much as I would like to, that's not the nature of our world, at least not right
right,
now. But
yeah.
and then the other parts of my day are, I do make it a priority to, I'm a newlywed, I'm a new wife, so trying to be a good wife and a present partner with my husband. And we also are new pet parents. We have a puppy, so on my off hours, which there's really no such thing, but I do, we love cooking together, having dinner together when I'm home, when I don't have something going on in the evenings, and making time for me to be able to shut off a little bit and to enjoy other hobbies, or as you said, my philanthropic pursuits. And often that is when the ideas come to me. So I find that as a creative, to your point, when we're kind of balancing these two different sides of our brain, you can become fatigued. Burnout is a thing. So when I allow myself time to step away from it and to participate in other sources of activities or inspirations that I enjoy, that is often when a lot of these problems that I've been struggling with might be solved. I'll come up with a solution, or an idea will come to me that inspires a future detail in an event.
Well, before we press on, congratulations on both the newlywed in you and also the pet parent. That's fun. Got a lot going on.
Thank
That's great. Was there anybody that really influenced you as you embarked on this career path? Who backed you up, or who really said, go for it? Was it just something like you talked about, you just knew that was your direction?
It's a great question. I definitely sought out opportunities to place myself in environments where I had the chance to plan events or to be in these environments where I was, whether it be traveling or having, really memorable hospitality experiences. I always had this desire to learn more and to immerse myself in these experiences, and I still very much have that to this day. I think it's kind of one of the keys to our success is I'm constantly sourcing and seeking out these opportunities to immerse ourselves in the type of hospitality experience, the lifestyle that we're wanting to deliver to our clients and our hosts and guests. And I actually have been reading a book, Unreasonable Hospitality, recently, and there was a quote about there's no greater motivator to provide memorable hospitality other than being on the receiving end of it. And it just really stood out to me of how I live my life, of that is what really inspires me and motivates me, is to be on the receiving end of witnessing other people and in their art forms and their craft, and how they take such pride and care and detail into what they create and deliver. So I think my life has been a series of those moments. And then I've had certainly mentors and champions along the way who have recognized a gift that I didn't even necessarily see in myself, and really fostered that and provided me with opportunities to step into that. And I think we've all experienced working with female leaders who aren't as supportive, maybe from a fear of, you're coming for their job, you're going to shine, and they're not going to, have that recognition. And so I had a lot of years of dealing with that. And then when I was within a luxury brand in-house doing all of their events on the corporate side, I had a mentor who saw what I was capable of and then really gave me I'm so grateful for this, like the creative direction and the autonomy to go and be that person and that professional. And so that was a game changer for me, is someone who said, I trust you, I trust your vision, I believe in what you're capable of, and it being far greater than what I would even be able to imagine. And I want you to run and go do, make it happen and be you and create these wonderful things. And that was such a privilege. Also set me up for the place I'm at now with owning my own business, where I feel like I had years of living in that version of me, right? And realizing that I can do this. I have the abilities to maybe see something a little different, or to bring something to the table that other people wouldn't consider. And I think that's one of the challenges for a lot of us as professionals, is we don't see our inherent innate gifts, because we think, well, this is just how I do things, and so everybody does it this way, right? And it takes someone, an outside influence and fresh set of eyes, to say, no, so this right here is something that's really individual and unique to you, and I want to help you foster that. And I don't know if you've had someone in your life that's done that, but that's certainly, I would say, the person that helped, not necessarily in the event space, but just more in the, as a female to female, professional entrepreneur, gave me that support to take that, go to the next level.
It is such a gift. And I will maybe give this right back to you. That's exactly what you're partaking in now, is you are passing that light forward to the audience. Because in our circles, as you've talked about, there are those that might not be supportive, but then
Mhm.
there are many out there. And sometimes our audience, or we as women, don't have the proximity to somebody or aren't as, like you mentioned, aren't as lucky to have someone in their world, especially a female. So thank you, number one, for what you've just said and shared with us, because the audience is listening, and you, by sharing your story, are doing that for others. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's a constant,
Yeah.
I will say it's a constant journey for me because there's a lot of days where I wonder, do I have anything else to offer or something different to say than what's already been said or done, and so I think that's natural to have those feelings or those doubts, but to have people around you that remind you of what's special to you that no one else has and possesses, especially if you're in a line of work where there's a lot of people doing what you do. I know it can be challenging to think like, how am I going to carve out my place, my niche? What do I have to offer that will be of different or value? And especially if you're thinking about starting a business, it can be intimidating because you're seeing all of these other people. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? You're looking at all these other people doing things successfully, and it's hard to sometimes, take that step and really invest in what you have to bring to the table. But yeah, I'm so grateful for that person who was still very much present and a big part of my life, and was also supportive of the next journey with me starting my own business 5 years ago. But we do need people that are our cheerleaders and our champions. My husband is very much an example of that too. We met right when I was starting my business. It was a very interesting time in the universe where I'd been career focused for so many years and never had time or entertained a relationship. And at the time that I was starting my company, there was just this shift where I was starting to design my own life. I was starting my own company. And so I had the opportunity I hadn't had before to choose, what does my career life look like? What does my personal life look like? What is the balance between those? And it's not lost on me. I don't think that's a coincidence that both of those things materialized at the same time. I think it's important to kind of be aware of those universe, you know, kind of what would be there are certain things at work that I think, whether you're manifesting or you're whatever path you choose to kind of tap into that, allowing yourself to be open to that, and being aware and present, because always like a push versus pull. I don't know if you feel this way, but I believe in going where you're being pulled instead of trying to push something. Like, we've all been there where we're trying to force something, you're trying to make something happen, and it's just not, for whatever reason, it's not gelling, it's not working, it's not right. And when you kind of give yourself the space to look at where you're being pulled, whether that's in your business or in your personal life, I do feel like doors start to open and that path starts to reveal itself.
Where do you, as an independent business owner, where do you find support?
Well, certainly in my family and my husband. And then I have, a dear group of friends. I'm an only child, so my friendships are my family to me. So definitely really take to heart and very seriously loyal and devoted to my circle of friends, many of whom are also entrepreneurs, business owners, and real badass females. So I'm constantly inspired by them, and surrounding myself with people that push me and motivate me to continue to excel and level up. So I get a lot of support and ideas and, sounding board from them. And then I do like to spend time with myself. I'm introverted and extroverted, and in the role that I'm in, I'm social and I'm on a lot and I'm at events and I'm having a lot of time where I'm living in this very high frequency, high energy space. So I also have to remind myself to kind of set aside some time to be introspective and to take some time for me, which is something I'm working on this year, is a little more self-care and self-love. So that's on the docket for 2024.
When do you feel the greatest sense of satisfaction?
Oh boy.
Well,
um,
I could have asked you what feeds
yes.
your soul, but so we'll just
No,
combine them.
yes. Yeah. Obviously, for me, the joy and the satisfaction is seeing the event come to fruition and seeing the guests, specifically seeing the guests really just enjoying the experience that you've created and being surprised and being wowed and being blown away and moved to emotions or tears, or that's the moment for sure. And it's what makes all of this worthwhile. And it truly, you have to love it. Otherwise, you wouldn't subject yourself to the journey that is planning an event. But it's definitely, it's when it's all realized and it kind of, the cool thing about events is they have a life of their own. You can plan and plan and plan and put all these things in place and, work through all potential obstacles and challenges and solve for those, but still it's a living, breathing thing. And it happens. What I love is that it's a moment in time that will never be recreated. It's the people, the place, the mood of the time, the purpose of the event, all of that comes together, and that ephemeral moment will never exist again. And so when you think about that, and all the work that's gone into it, it's so meaningful to me to see how it just kind of takes on this life of its own and how people choose to experience it and what they take away from it and the impact it has on their lives and hopefully memories that they look back on. My goal is that you say, remember that time when, X, right? And we were at that event and we got to see this artist that we've always dreamed of was on our bucket list, or there were performers that revealed themselves out of the dance floor, like that's the fulfillment, is knowing that that will live on because the event comes and goes so quickly. But that impression and that joy that it brings people, I think is, our memories are rooted, our life is rooted in memories. I think, when you look back, those are the moments I want to be able to provide for people that they'll reminisce on and look back on fondly.
Girl, you're giving me goosebumps. So beautiful. As you were sharing that, it was almost cinematic. I could visualize, remember, that at that moment and at that event.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. All right, my lady. So
right.
two things. Number one, we're going to take a quick break to hear from this episode's sponsor. But number two, do you have a few more minutes for a couple more questions?
I would love that.
Okay, super. All right, we'll be right back. I personally have been investing with Ashcroft Capital for about 5 years. I know the co-founder, Joe Fairless, pretty darn well. He's my brother, so I can personally vouch for him and how he approaches things. I like investing with Ashcroft because of the monthly cash flow. They buy apartment buildings, improve them, and then sell them. It's a good business to be in, and I'm glad to passively invest with them. You can learn more at ashcroftcapital.com. That's ASHCROFT capital.com. Okay, we are back. All right. We all crave great resources that might help inspire, expand our minds, uplift, and again, I always tease, sometimes get us through the day. You shared with us earlier a book that you're reading. Yeah. And the audience craves these great resources. So, especially hearing your story and your journey, do you have any favorites that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, so yes, I am reading this amazing book right now. Highly recommend it. There's also another book called The Art of Gathering, which is has been really impactful for me as well. So if you are interested in events or hosting or bringing people together and the impact that has, I definitely would recommend that. And as far as resources, I spend a lot of my time. This is, I think, a little bit different than maybe how some other people in our industry approach their work and their sources of inspiration. But I spend a lot of time looking at other industries and other leaders and titans of their respective field and what they're doing and how they're differentiating or disrupting So I would say I would encourage people to, whether it's, picking up a few different publications or online resources that are a topic that you're interested in, but maybe not necessarily directly related to your line of work. There's a certain benefit of having this like cognitive dissonance, I think, where you're hearing like different perspectives or looking at things from a different angle and seeing how someone else is choosing to operate their business or to bring an experience to a client or customer base. So I don't like to be as insular, I guess, is my point. So I don't spend a lot of time in the event space. I spend my time looking at other people that I admire or brands that I think are doing really interesting work and reading articles or publications. I love an actual in print magazine. Say what you
Yeah.
will, but
Yep.
so I that's where I spend my time and my energy, and I feel like it is where I learn. It's a great education, and also a lot of inspiration. And then there are some professional organizations I'm engaged, involved, that are, great resources for me, again, on continuing to like personal and professional development. I'm not necessarily naming specific resources, but more just kind of a general idea of, expanding your horizons a little bit and taking the time to look at trade publications or something else that you might be interested in, or realizing how it might influence your business.
Milady, I think we have been very in sync. I've heard you say the word intentional in a variety of ways, but numerous times, and I value that so much. So, with that said, we always ask our Silhouette of Success VIP feature guests for a note or a special quote or a piece of key go-to advice of intentional inspiration to share with the audience. So, does anything resonate with you, or do you have a quote or something that you'd want to pass on to our audience?
I love this. And this is where it comes into play, where it's like, how can I say something different that no one else has said, or offer something of value? Well, I did mention comparison is the thief of joy earlier, and that's something I refer back to a lot. I think we constantly need that reminder and that opportunity to kind of reframe our mindset and all of those doubts and criticisms that come into play. I am quite exacting, quite critical of myself and my work, and it makes me great at what I do. But as a human, it can be, not always in the service of my best self. So I think that's an important one. And then I also have been working really hard to embody a growth mindset. So that's not necessarily a succinct quote, but more of a mentality of taking challenges or obstacles that present themselves in our work and positioning them and reframing it to think of it as an opportunity for growth. And I think when I do that, I have a different perspective on these things that I need to go and conquer. And it helps me in times where I maybe am feeling like an island, like you were talking earlier about, if you don't have, always have these support networks around you. And you're obviously, if you're running your business, you have to do it all yourself and you're wearing a lot of hats. And it's challenging sometimes to have to go back to the basics when you're used to a certain level of mastery in your career. But when you're owning your own business, sometimes it's back to 101 on things. But that growth mindset is helpful to me, and hopefully, someone else might benefit from being reminded that there's, an opportunity to look at things a little bit differently to help you get through them.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Perfection. Perfection. All right, milady, we are going to have to let you go. I do not want to, but we do. So the stage is completely yours. I know you're a backstage kind of gal, but this is all about you. So, where can our audience go to find and connect with you, whether it be on your socials or any contact information you'd like to share so they can continue to support you and your success?
Well, I really look forward to connecting with members of your community. And, certainly it's one of the great joys of having my business is to get to know our fellow party loving folks. And so Cassie LaMere Events on Instagram and our website, CassieLaMereEvents.com, also on LinkedIn, but really look forward to having a conversation with your audience. And please reach out, and whether it's questions that you have or, just ideas or inspiration that you'd like to share, that dialogue and that community is so important to me. And it's one of the things I most enjoy is just those connections. I think we all do. That's why we end up in these roles that we're in. So I look forward to hearing from everyone.
Wonderful. And we, of course, will make sure that all of your links are in the show notes so you are one click away for the audience to find you and support you. So, all right, my lady, it has been a true honor and wonderful just hearing you and visiting with you and learning your story and about your company. So thank you for taking time today for sharing your Silhouette of Success story. You are a genuine light and inspiration to us all.
Thank you. Right back at you.
All right, my lady, until next time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at thesilhouettesofsuccess.com or connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We're grateful that you tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.